Welcome to After School with Mr. Van Huss. Today, I sit down with one of my favorite Tennessee Titans of all time. He was one of the people who was responsible for the Music City Miracle, and now he's gone on to be a great educator. Please welcome at this time, Dr. Kevin Dyson. Welcome to After School with Mr. Van Huss. Today, I'm joined by Tennessee Titans legend and an all-around great educator, Mr. Kevin Dyson. Dr. Dyson, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. Appreciate you having me.
Oh, man, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me here. So just starting out, for anybody that may not be familiar with you, just tell me a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do and what it is that you've done.
Oh man, let's see. I guess I'll work backwards. Currently, I'm a high school principal in Williamson County Schools. I've been here. This is my third year at the high school. After 2.5 years at a middle school as a principal, and started my administrative journey about 10 years ago. So this is about year 11 in administration. Prior to that, I was an athletic director and teacher and a coach. I did some other jobs, some leadership roles, graduation coach, family involvement coordinator. I've done some various different things. I try to get as much experience as I could because prior to that, I played professional football. And, you go from college at 22, 23 years old, and you retire at the age of 30. And I say retire because that's what you do from professional football. You retire at 30 years old. I had to reinvent myself and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And football was natural fit. And I wanted to be around the game, I thought anyway. And pursue some opportunities to coach professionally that didn't work out. And then I started in secondary education at a small private school out here, FRA. And I love coaching. I love teaching kids, man. Teaching kids the game. I love learning the game again. And then I went back to school and found out I actually like to learn. I didn't like to learn as a kid, but as an adult, I really enjoyed it. It was interesting because I tell this story because it tells you just how fast time is. I mean, when I retired 30 years old, 2005, I went back to school to get my first master's degree. In the first class, he's going through the syllabus and he's talking about PowerPoint, Excel spreadsheet, and Word documents, all common knowledge and common vocabulary with everybody. But to me, I had no clue what he was talking about. I literally was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through here," because I hadn't been in school in what 7-8 years at that time, and so I was lost. I figured it out, obviously, but that just goes to show you how time really flies just in a 7-8 year period.
So what influenced you to do it, what you do? What first made you want to play football, and then what really kind of got you into education?
Let's see. Well, football kind of happened. I always wanted to be a basketball player. When I was in the sixth grade, was watching a basketball game. I was a big Lakers fan, of course, Michael Jordan fan. And I told my mom, I said, I'm going pro. I'm going to the NBA and I'm gonna buy you a house. And that was my ultimate dream, was play in the NBA and buy her a house. Single mom, oldest of 4 kids. We lived in apartments and things like that, and rented a home later in life. But that was my dream. And I did everything I could, except for the school thing, to attain that dream. And when I got to high school, my senior year, actually, I'll go back my sophomore year because we were 10, 11, 12 in high school. So my first year of high school, 10th grade, I wasn't going to play football. I spent the summer in Las Vegas with my dad and his side of the family. And I actually didn't come back to school till like the first day of school. And I wasn't going to play football, but all my classmates, stuff there was like, no, he needs to play. So he told the coaches, and one of the coaches knew me because he used to teach at the junior high I was at. And he was like, man, just come play. I was like, no, I'm just going to focus on basketball. I'm too little. I was a real skinny kid. And I said, no, I'm just going to focus on basketball so I can get a scholarship, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, just come out for a couple of days. If you don't like it, I won't bother you again. Well, that first game, I had a pretty good game, and just the excitement of being out there again and being active, playing football, competing, I loved it. I still wanted to be a basketball player up until my senior year. And again, I still want to be a basketball player all through college, but my senior year, we won state in football, and I was having some success as a football player and getting a lot of recruitment and a lot of offers, and I needed the money. You know, I had to get the scholarship. So I asked every school, if I come to you for football, can I still play basketball? And of course, all of them tell you yes. And so I did. I went that route, still with the aspirations of playing basketball because that was my favorite sport.
That's awesome. I know you mentioned some of your basketball heroes being like Jordan and Los Angeles Lakers and some people like that. Do you have any football players that you wanted to be like when you were younger?
That's a great one. I grew up a Cowboys fan. Go figure, right? I'm a big time Cowboys fan. So Tony Dorsett, Everson Walls, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, you know, that Randy White, Jim Jeffcoat. I mean, I can go down the line. Bates, oh man, Renfro, Tony Hill. Oh man, I can keep on going. I was a big time Dallas Cowboys fan. I love the Cowboys up until they didn't draft me, right? And then, of course, being in college and high school and stuff like that, I was a defensive back in high school. So Ronnie Lott was my favorite defensive back. And, of course, I love Dion. Who didn't love Dion back then? And then on the offense side of the ball, man, Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice was that guy to me. He was the Michael Jordan of football to me. You know, I loved how he competed. He ran routes. He was record breaker. He did everything. And, you know, you try to pattern as much as your game after what he did because he was just that guy to me. He was, like I said, he was the Jordan of football to me, especially for receivers. And so yeah, those are kind of guys I looked up to from a football perspective, but that was far and few between. Basketball was my thing.
You know, a lot of those names you named off are people that I grew up watching too. And for Christmas, my son got the arcade cabinet of NFL Blitz. Okay.
Oh wow.
You're on there. It's like 98, 99, and 2000. And my son, he's about to turn 9, and he's a huge football fan. Like, he'll watch anybody playing football, and he plays flag, and he just loves it. And I've watched him start to know those names from the Titans and the Cowboys and the 49ers and some of those, like, hot teams right through there. And it's so funny because now he knows, like, Troy Aikman. He knows Michael Irvin. He knows some of those people, and it's all through that arcade game. So it's been a blast to watch. Coming up through school, did you have a favorite teacher or a coach or anybody or a favorite mentor who kind of pushed you along?
You know, yes, there's so many, man. Donnie Greenfield, he was my travel soccer coach, a comp soccer coach. He was a big influence on me. Randy Johnson, Craig Hansen, those are all coaches, right? There's some family members, the Sakowitz family, the Davis family, Stouffer family. There was a lot of families that were surrogate families to me, so I can go and travel and play AAU basketball. Well, it's not what the AAU back then, but travel basketball or travel soccer and things of that nature, which I was doing as well. That people just kind of took me in, knowing my mom and as we can afford to do a lot of the things, and so they just kind of took me in. But from an academic standpoint, man, there's a lot of people that say there's a fifth grade teacher, Mr. Hall, who has a big influence on me, man. He instilled a lot of leadership in me, even as a young man, because he saw something in me. But one in particular in high school, my English teacher, Miss Lynn Smith, she was just phenomenal, man. She was just one of the most caring people that would just go the extra mile for any kid. She would take the extra time to make sure I had what I needed. I became her teaching assistant my senior year in high school. That's how much I adored her, man. She was just good people. And I wrote a story about the impact she had on me to the NFL. And my story, she won NFL Teacher of the Year based on my story in 99. So 99, 2000, I believe. And so now I think of stories like that. I think of people like her. And now being in education myself, you just never know the impact you're going to have on a kid. Here's this kid who my focus was sports, and I'm just being candid. My mom said you had to have a B average, a 3.0 or better to play sports, or you weren't going to play. And she meant that. I tested her one time on it. She held true and didn't let me play basketball. And I never got below 3.0 again, right? And but one thing I could say about Miss Smith was she wasn't going to let me settle for just getting by. She extended my capacity to learn and challenge me, but did it in a loving way, and she helped me grow. So people like her, I try to remember that as I'm, you know, focusing on what I'm doing now as an educator, because that's what education really is that impact you have on people that come and go, because they come and go. Schools stay, but people come and go, and it's a matter of the impact that you have one way or the other. I tell the teachers here now, man, and I heard this from somebody, so I'm not taking credit for it by any means, but people will remember you for either way. They remember you for the negative, for the positive. So why not be for the positive? And so, it's especially relevant for education and the impact of relationships that you have with students.
You said you were 30 when you went back for like your education degree.
Yeah, I was 30. My first degree was educational leadership, master's. And my thought was, and this is how naive I was, I didn't really know how education worked, specifically in Tennessee. I was like, I just go be an athletic director and coach. And that's what I thought I was going to do. I didn't think anything about teaching or anything like that. I knew how to run a corporation or run a business. I had been a business. I have my own. Me being a professional athlete, you are a corporation of business. So I had a gist of it, run a business. I knew athletics, knew sport, and I figured I'm a pretty fast learner. And so I thought um, I would just go be an athletic director somewhere. I didn't care public or private. Again, naive, didn't really know. And then coach. And I coached football, basketball, and track at one point or another, and I enjoyed all of them. And of course, I migrated to just football at one point, but and that was kind of where I was thinking. So I went back to school, and I love leadership, and I love learning about it. And so I just focused in on that, and then I went back and got my next master's for another reason, but and then got my doctorate in leadership as well.
That's awesome. That kind of ties into a lesson that I teach my students a lot is like when I was fresh out of college, I worked for the Country Music Association, and I thought all I ever wanted to do was music business stuff. And
Yeah,
I went to MTSU for that, and then that's where I was after college. And I didn't know I wanted to be a teacher until I was 30. And that's when I went back to get my master's degree.
yeah, yeah,
And I tell my students so many times, don't think you have to have everything figured out by the time you're 18, because you want to be prepared, but life will throw you some curveballs that you won't see
yeah,
coming, and you
yeah,
could end up doing something totally different and loving every minute of it.
yeah. Again, when you get older, you're more reflective and you appreciate time, right? Your most valuable asset. And I would even tell my own kids this, and I think I have just, you know, do it all when you're young, figure it out. Truly, I've grown into what I'm doing now, and I would have never probably given myself this kind of grace. I probably wouldn't even took the time to learn as much as I have learned over this last 15, 16, 17 years, really, because I have challenged myself in ways that I never did as a young man. But at the same time, even in your youth, I think a lot of times I was so focused in and worried about the next move and what I got to do next, and I got to make sure I'm doing this and doing that, and not necessarily being able to enjoy and live in the moment. And that I think that's the greatest gift that we have is being able to have time. And if you're fortunate enough to wake up and get another 24 or whatever, or 16 if you're up 16 hours a day, whatever, and you're fortunate enough, man, is maximizing those minutes, those seconds, those hours, and doing what you do best, respectfully and gracefully and graciously with people. If you can do that, man, it can make for a less stressful life, let's say. And I've failed at that on occasion, and I try to learn from it. Then I fail again, and then I try to learn from that one. So that's the life lesson, right? So it's about getting better if you can, as much as you can, and every time you can.
And that may partially ask this last question I was going to say is, when you have the ear of high school kids, when you talk to young people who, have these dreams and they want to chase them, what's one life lesson you give them? What's the most important thing you think you can tell them?
Mm. Oh man, if you asked me that 5 years ago, my answer might be slightly different. Um, as now I'm a principal and I have to talk and do commencement speeches and stuff like that. So I start thinking about how do you inspire a bunch of kids? And one thing I will say is um, control what you can control. So much of their lives now is out of their control. What people post on social media, what's being said, what the text message said, what this is going on. Just focusing on what you can control. You can't control what people say. You can't control how they think and how they judge you. You just got to be who you are and enjoy that time that you have. And that'd be the other thing is the tomorrows are not promised. And before you run out of tomorrows, enjoy today. And I'm saying that out loud even as a testament to myself, as a reminder to myself, because so much of our lives, as you know, you're in education as well. You're focused on the job at hand. Sometimes we don't take time to just relax and smell the flowers. And sometimes you just need that. I think you got to appreciate the time that you have. And again, if you're afforded the opportunity to wake up and see another day, that's all you can ask, man. Is just appreciate that time and maximize as best you can. Nobody's saying you don't work hard and don't do your job well. Just don't take life that serious and appreciate what you have in front of you.
Awesome advice. I have one final question for you, and this is just a personal thing that I want to ask. Not everybody's going to get a question like this, but I wanted to give this one to you. Do you think over the course of your career, have you been asked more times about the final play of Super Bowl 34 or the Music City Miracle?
The miracle, especially being here in Tennessee. I think people get a little apprehensive when they come to me with the getting tackled a yard short just because they think it's impacted my life in some kind of way. So I would say the miracle, just from the sheer joy that it brought a lot of people and the magnitude of the play and the improbability of the play. I think people like to talk about that a little bit more than coming up a yard short, and so do I. So I don't mind talking about either of them, but I prefer to talk to the miracle. I just over the years, being able to talk about it and appreciate it, man, the stories that people have shared with me. And then, like a lot of times when I watch it, I don't even watch me or Frank or Lorenzo or whoever. A lot of times I watch the sidelines. I watch the crowd. I watch people's reaction to it, man, and just relive it from their perspective as much as I can, right? Because it was such an iconic moment to the city. And I'm humbled to be appreciative to be a part of that. But it's special to me because that play has afforded me opportunities to have so many conversations of what that play meant to them in that moment. Where I heard stories of dude was having a baby and he left his wife in labor watching the TV screen. Like another dude almost got a wreck on the interstate, had to pull over because he listened to the radio. Another man who he had the game TiVo. Remember TiVo? He was TiVo in the game and was going to watch it later, but saw everybody in their cars cheering and pulling off to the side. He couldn't help it. So he turned his radio on just to hear what was going on. Like, just hearing multiple stories. Dude told me he ran out of the stadium and he swear the whole ground was shaking. It was so loud and tried to come back in. It was too late. The other people got caught in the elevator trying to leave, and then they missed the whole thing. Like, it was just I've heard so many candid stories, man. It's been fun over the past 20 something years to just hear the stories and share that with people.
Well, I always had a high level of respect for really both of those plays, even though one, ended better than what you probably wanted it to at the time.
Yeah.
I watched as, just being a big Titans fan as you moved on and as you furthered your career in education. And, I know one play is not going to define anybody. I can tell you right where I was when the Music City Miracle happened. And I'm another one of those people. I was at home in Kingsport, where I grew up. I was actually at home visiting my mom and just had the game on and was just screaming at the television and jumping up and down. And it's one of the most joyful moments of watching sports, I think, through my whole life. But I've always appreciated. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to me today. It's a real honor. And I know my students are going to really appreciate hearing what you have to say.
Oh, absolutely, man. Anytime. And I appreciate you being patient to get me on here. I know we had to reschedule, so
Hey,
it's
no
all
problem. Life is crazy. I'm, between teaching and Two young kids at home. It's hard to find a spare moment. So I understand completely, and I appreciate it greatly.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely, man. Anytime.
All right, well, sir, thank you for staying after school with Mr. Van Huss, and I hope our paths cross again soon.
Absolutely, brother. Good luck rest of the year.
All right, thank you. You too. Take it easy.